Guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be showing you how to make this beautiful shoulder bag. This was a promise that I made while making the matching scarf for this, and this is a very easy project. And if you haven't yet checked out my previous video of how to crochet a scarf in this particular stitch, it has the most amazing fringes. So check out the video link in the description box below and give it a try and see how you like that. So let's jump into the video. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so that you're notified whenever I post these beautiful tutorials. So let's get started. So for this project, you'll need the following items. 1, yarn. For the yarn, I chose the yarn that's on the chunkier side, just because the stitch works up very nicely and boldly when I use chunky yarn using that particular stitch. And then you're also going to need a hook. This is a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook, a pair of scissors, a darning needle, and a measuring tape. This yarn is called Seal. It's called Robin, and it's a 3-ply chunky yarn. So you can replace it with maybe Red Hat. It has the same properties as Red Hat, Super Saver. So if you're looking for a substitute yarn, that's a good one for this. So let's jump into the video and learn how to make this beautiful bag. So you're going to grab your hook and your yarn, and you're going to make a slip knot. So you're going to just make a twist like this, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, and yarn over, pull through. So I started with a chain of 22, and that chain should be an even number. If at all you prefer to use a different number of foundation chains. So 1, 2, 3, so I have my 22 chains here, but the number of foundation chains should be an even number. So let's get started on the body. You're going to go into the second chain from the hook, into the back bump. You have, this is the front side of the chain, but we have the back bump. That's where we're going to be working. So you're going to go into that back bump with a slip stitch. For a slip stitch, you're going to just insert your hook, pull through, and pull through all like that. That's a slip stitch. And into the next chain, into the back bump, you're going to yarn over, insert your hook into that back bump like that, pull up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook, and then yarn over, pull through all. And that's a half double crochet in the US terms. So let's do that again. Into the next chain in the back bump, you're going to insert your hook, pull up, and then pull through all. So that's a slip stitch, and make sure your slip stitches are not very tight. So yarn over, into the next chain in the back bump, you're going to place a half double crochet. Next, slip stitch. Next, half double crochet. So all the stitches of the very first row should be worked in the back bump of the chains. So we are keeping on alternating between half double crochet, as you can see here, and then slip stitch into the next. And you're going to repeat that all the way across. Just follow what I'm doing. Half double crochet, and then slip stitch. Working into the back bump may be a little bit tricky. If at all you started your foundation chain on tighter tension, but if you didn't, this should be a walkover. So make sure when you're working your foundation chain, your chains are not very tight. So we are coming to the end, and I'm placing a half double crochet into the second last chain, and then into the very last chain, which is this one, in the back bump, you're going to place a slip stitch. And make sure it's not tight. As you can see, I leave room for me to work the next row. So this is what we have for our very first row. So we're going on to row 2. You're going to chain 1, turn your work, and into the very first slip stitch, because we ended our row with a slip stitch. So go into both loops. As you can see, there are 2 loops on my hook. You're going to insert your hook and place a slip stitch into the slip stitch. Like that. And you can see I haven't made it very tight, so that when I come back to work into it, I'm actually able to work into it so that I don't fidget with it. So after this, you're going to prepare for a half double crochet and place a half double crochet in the half double crochet from the previous row. So yarn over, pull through all, and then slip stitch into the next slip stitch, half double crochet into the next half double crochet from the previous row. And we're going to repeat this all the way across. Just watch what I'm doing. I hope I'm explaining it well. If you're enjoying this video so far, please give this video a thumbs up. It helps my channel a lot. And leave a comment down below to let me know what you think about the tutorial and how it's going for you. Are you finding this stitch very easy for you, or it's a little bit complex? Alright, so we are alternating between slip stitch and half double crochet. So slip stitch, half double crochet into the second last stitch, and then slip stitch into the very last stitch. So we're placing 1 slip stitch into it, and this is what we have for row 2. So some of the things to note are we start with a slip stitch and end with a slip stitch. And then when we are working, the moment you start your slip stitch, the next should be a half double crochet, and you start alternating between the 2 stitches. And I think those are the only 2 stitches that you should know for this project. Just a chain, half double crochet, and a slip stitch. And this is called the evenmost stitch. So we're going on to row 3, and row 3 is going to basically be the same as row 2. You're going to chain 1, turn your work, slip stitch into the very first slip stitch. As you can see, mine wasn't tight, so when it comes to working into it, it's just a walkover. I just pull through and make sure I haven't made it very tight. So that's my very first slip stitch, and then prepare for a half double crochet and go into the next stitch with a half double crochet, then slip stitch. So we're just repeating what we did for row 2, and that's the row that we are going to keep repeating. Alright guys, so I went ahead to repeat row 2 until the length of my panel measured 3 times the width of the panel. So regardless of what you started with here, make sure you measure this, you take this measurement, multiply it by 3, and the number that you get should be the number of rows that you do this side. So if you have a total of 8 inches, you're going to multiply that number by 3, which is 24, and then you're going to make sure you do you repeat the row 2 until this from here all the way to here is 24 inches. If you have 7, make sure this is 21 inches. So whatever number that you had for your starting chain, the measurement that you took, you're going to make sure you multiply it by 3, and then you get the measurement for the length of the panel. So now we are going to assemble our bag, and at the beginning here I had a total of 8 inches, and this measures, as you can see here, we are getting a total of 24 inches. When slightly stretched, I didn't want to make it like very long, but when it comes to this, it's also 8 inches when slightly stretched. You can see it's 7.5, but when slightly stretched, it can go to 8 inches. So that's what I considered for my bag. So now let's start assembling the bag. So you're going to get this corner, the right hand corner, and then fold it until it meets this horizontal line. Just do that. Make sure the corners are very pointed, like that. And then you're going to get this side, and you're going to fold it until it meets this line, like that. So you should be having something that looks like this. And now we are going to turn our work to the other side. Just flip your work over like this. And we are going to bring this corner here and let it meet here. Let it meet the exact middle of the bag. And this is what we have, guys. This is the general structure of the bag. And as you can see, this side we have this, and then this side we have something like this. And now what we are going to do, oh, one thing I forgot to mention is once you get the number of rows that you need for the length that's 3 times the width of your panel, don't cut your yarn, because we are going to use this same exact yarn to create the strap of our bag. So you're going to have to get some sort of like waste yarn that we are going to use to attach these sections here without cutting our yarn here. So as you know, a ball has the inner section, which I usually use, then the outer section. So get from the outer section and get a long enough strand, because we need to join these parts. So this is what I've got from my outer section. So I'm going to get that strand that I broke off as waste yarn, and then get my darning needle, and then I'm going to thread it into that strand. Okay, so we're going to join this section here. As you can see, when you turn your work like this, you can see the room that the bag is creating. So let's put down, make sure your work is aligned so neatly, and then we're going to start joining. So we have stitches here. We're going to just make sure we align our work as perfectly as we can. So I'm putting into the first stitch there. I'm doing this because I don't want to start from here and I distort the shape here. So I'll start from the exact middle of the bag, going all the way down. So just continue to join the stitches together. I don't know the best way to do this, but if you want to use the mattress stitch, then go ahead and do that. If you want to use single crochet, go ahead and use that. But I'm just using a whip stitch, just something very easy. Just align stitch to stitch without distorting the shape that you created while aligning your work together. So we're almost at the corner, and I am placing my very last one, closing up that small gap at the end there. So the moment you're done with that, you are going to, you can weave in your tail at this point, but I'm going to just leave a strand. I'll weave the tails in later on. So I can also cut this so that I have just a small enough strand to weave in. When they're so long, they keep confusing me and I can easily make a mistake. So you're going to flip your work onto the opposite side. And at this point, you can't determine which is the front or which is the back. Both sides should be looking the same. So you're going to still use that strand that you broke off from your yarn ball, and you're going to start joining. So I join with 2 stitches at the very beginning, just so that when I'm pulling on the strand, this one doesn't keep moving. So just continue to join, just like we did for the opposite side. So once you're done with that and you're satisfied with your results, this is what you should have. Nothing so tricky or so complicated. It's just this. Now you are going to, I'm going to just tie a knot here because I have 2 strands that are meeting at that point. And then when I'm done with that, we also have this tail. I think at this point you can determine which side you want to be the front or the back, but both sides should be looking the same. So once you determine where you want the back to be, you're going to just push your darning needle through to the back side and then flip your work over so that you weave in your tail on the wrong side of your work. Just go in and out of a few stitches here and there, and then cut your yarn. So that's done. When you turn your work over to the right side, this is what it looks like. Very neat. Then you're going to get your darning needle still and weave in this tail, and make sure you do that on the wrong side of your work. So just push your needle onto the wrong side of the work, flip your work, and then start weaving in the tail, just going in and out of a few stitches. When you're done with that, you're going to cut your yarn. And you're going to make sure you do that for each and every tail on your bag. So we still have these ones that we tied here. You can go ahead and just use a darning needle, turn your work to the wrong side, and then weave that tail in. All right, so once you're done with that, you're going to flip your work over to this side and weave in this tail as well. Okay, so this is what we have at the end of everything, before we make the straps, of course. So now we're going to create the strap for our bag. Okay, so we're going to bring back our hook onto this yarn that we left behind after our very last row. All right, so you're going to attach your yarn, your hook into the loop that you left behind, and you're going to make a single crochet into the very first space and then single crochet into the next space. So that's a total of 2 single crochets. Now you're going to turn your work, and then you're going to chain 1, single crochet into the first single crochet and single crochet into the next. And that's all we're going to do. Chain 1, turn your work, single crochet into each of the 2 single crochets. So we're just placing 1 single crochet into each and every single crochet. Okay, so I've done a total of 50 rows for my strap. I prefer to use single crochet stitches because they are less stretchy and the strap can be more sturdy. But if you prefer to use, I don't know if I can use double crochet stitches because they're way more stretchy and the bag will end up having a way longer strand than what I had planned for. So remember that this bag is going to have like maybe a book and a phone, things that have weight. So you don't want to make a strap that's so long, otherwise that weight is going to pull on this strap and it will stretch. So make sure when you're making your strap, you stretch it out and see how far it can go. If you're going for a cross bag, you're going to have to make sure it's long enough, but also when it stretches, it's not way too long. Then if you're going for a shoulder bag, you're going to make sure you limit the number of rows that you do so that it doesn't stretch past the shoulder area that you're planning to make. So for example, I've made a total of 50 rows, but I feel like this is way too long. It's going to stretch and then it goes maybe to my hip level. So I'm going to take off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, so that I go to 40 rows for my strap. That way I can be very sure that even when it stretches, it's going to be around the shoulder level. If you want it even shorter, just go ahead and reduce the number of rows that you've done for your strap before joining. So the moment you're done with the number of rows that you planned for, you're going to make a chain and then cut your yarn, leaving a strand to help you attach this strap to the opposite side. So you're going to introduce your darning needle. All right, get your darning needle and make sure the strap is not twisted. So you're going to thread your darning needle, and for me the strand is on the lower side when it's not twisted, so I'm going to just go on top here with 2 stitches. I attach twice for the very first stitch, but then also for the second one I'm going to do the same, attach twice, and then I'll go into that loop there, go through it, and then go into one of the loops on the other side and then pass it through, and then I can weave in my tail on the wrong side of the bag. So what you can do is you can go ahead and line this bag if you wish, but I feel like the stitch is very dense and I don't think people can see through. The holes are very limited, and then if you wish to line your work, go ahead and do that. But this is how our bag has turned out, and I'm very pleased with the results. Actually, I didn't know how this would turn out, and I had promised you guys to make a sweater out of this stitch. I'm still working on that, but let me know in the comment section how you found this tutorial, if you liked it. This bag has a lot of room and you can put stuff like maybe a notebook. Let me try and stuff it with a few things here. You can put your phone in there. Then you can have a notebook in here. I hope it's not so long for this bag, but okay, it can go in, but it's quite big. If you have a smaller notebook, you can go ahead and use that. So yeah, you can go ahead and put your phone and then your other daily utilities, just small stuff that you move around with on a daily. And if you wish to place a zip, that's totally optional. You can go ahead and do that, but mine is just an open bag, just showing you the basics. And I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Make sure you give it a thumbs up if you did, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.